Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
Hey, welcome to the show, and we're so glad that you're with us. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. This show is for you, MBA applicant, who need help figuring out which schools fit you best and how to get in the best business schools around the world. That's what we want to help you do, and that's what you can do over at touchmba.com. If you need help figuring out which schools fit you best and you want to get a free review of your profile, go head over to our site and we'd be happy to help you out. This week, I spoke with Stacey from Penn State University's Smeal College of Business. And my big takeaway from our conversation was that Penn State and Smeal offers this best of both worlds of business education, where you're in a relatively small class of 80 to 100 MBA students, but you're housed within this huge research university of Penn State with, over 30,000 undergrads. And of course, Penn State is well known for supply chain management. It's top ranked both graduate and undergraduate level. And they're also strong in marketing, especially business to business marketing and corporate finance and consulting as well. Stacey is a straight shooter, and I think you'll get a lot from this episode, and let's get straight to it. It's my pleasure to introduce our next guest to the show. Stacey Peeler is the MBA Admissions Director for the Smeal College of Business at Penn State University. And Stacey has been with Smeal since 2008 in admissions, and she also got her master's in science in HR and employment relations from Penn State as well. So she's both been a student at the school, and of course now she's running admissions. So I can't wait to hear her perspective on what makes the school unique. Welcome to the show, Stacey.
Thank you, Darren. I'm really glad to be here today and talk a little bit about our program.
My first question that I ask in every episode is, what makes the Smeal MBA unique compared to other leading business schools in the U.S.?
So as we know, each school is going to have some unique factors, and of course we have several, but the one piece I like to really pull out when I talk about differentiators is that I really think the MBA program here at Smeal gives you a best of both worlds experience. Let me explain that a little bit further. So being a Penn State program, we are a world-renowned research university, and we have the resources and brand name to back up our program. So we're housed here at University Park, Pennsylvania, which is right in the middle of Penn State, and that is where our main campus is. So we've got over, like I said, 40,000 undergrads here, plus graduate students, staff, and faculty. It's a very big place. However, our program is a very small program. Typically, we take about 80 to 100 students per year. We have a very collaborative environment. So what I can tell you is, again, that best of both worlds feel. You're in a program where everybody knows you, you know everybody else, the faculty knows you by name, but you've also got resources that can certainly help you at any point in your career in the entire Penn State community. So it's easy to get lost at a large university, but with the support system we have here at Smeal and the small program, it's really a great place to be.
Penn State is known to be in this great college town. So what are the advantages for an MBA housed within such a large university?
So I'll give you a really specific example, and this speaks to some of the opportunities you would have outside of the classroom. The MBA program has several organizations you can be involved with as an MBA, that you're working with your fellow MBA students. There are student-run organizations here at Smeal in the College of Business, and you're in these organizations with your classmates. They can range anywhere from the Women's MBA Association to the Minority MBA Association to more functionally specific groups such as Supply Chain Management Association or the Finance Association. However, if you want to get involved with more people at Penn State, you've got the freedom to engage in both those organizations and also go broader and be part of the graduate student community here at Penn State and interact with those from all of the other programs. So Penn State has a graduate student association that's open to everybody from all of the programs. There are also some other cultural specific organizations. So I can think of, for example, the Indian Student Association at Penn State. That's graduate students from every program. That's undergraduate students. There's a Thai association that's open to all Penn State students. You can choose to spend all your time here in the business school, which is perfectly fine. Or if you're just looking to engage a little bit more at the university level, you're always going to have options to do that.
And how would you describe the student culture at Smeal to someone who may not have a chance to lay a foot on campus?
I would say collaborative is the first word that comes to mind. We often hear students who come to visit who haven't applied yet, who are in the application process, say how friendly and helpful people are on Penn State's campus in general, but notably within the program. We keep our programs small on purpose. We want to make sure that we are admitting students who are team players and who want to help each other in addition to helping themselves. Now, MBAs, many of them are your so-called type A personalities. So, of course, we have very competitive people here, but I think one of the differences, again, that collaborative spirit. They're not only looking to improve themselves, they're looking to improve their classmates' experience too. And, while they're rising up, they want to bring people around them with them versus kind of stepping over them to get where they're going.
And you mentioned that Smeal is a very renowned business school. What is it renowned for? Which academic disciplines is it really well known for?
So I'd say there are three that stand out, starting with supply chain management. That is probably the one we're most globally recognized for. Gartner has ranked us number one, which has happened many times, both the undergraduate and graduate level. Our other strengths include marketing, especially in the business-to-business marketing realm, and corporate finance.
Are there any new or exciting developments with the MBA program that have happened recently or that are coming up?
We are really fortunate to have just had a new associate dean of graduate programs come on board at Smeal, and he'll be working with not only the MBA program, but all of the graduate programs, again, to see how we can leverage the resources we have within the college and within the university to make a better and more robust educational Penn State experience. So, for example, we're constantly looking at demand in the market for what concentrations we can offer. So clearly supply chain, finance, marketing, those are going to be real core functional concentrations that we continue to offer. But for example, last year we added a sustainability concentration, and we were able to do that by adding some online classes and make things more flexible. And we just announced literally this week that our healthcare concentration is up and running. And this is another great example to show how we can collaborate with other units at Penn State and demonstrate that best of both worlds. So we have the small program here, but with so many other academic offerings available at Penn State University, we can offer things like healthcare in conjunction with some of the other colleges and work courses that are not offered here at the business school into the curriculum for an MBA who wants to do really something functionally specific.
I noticed that there's a big emphasis in your program on this idea of principled leadership. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that and why that's so important to Penn State.
Ethics and integrity are stressed at the university level, and Smeal has taken it kind of one step further. And our current honor code was actually started by MBAs several years ago, not at the urging of the administration, but because the students thought it was the right thing to do. And they wanted that culture of integrity to really shine through as to how business is done when you're a Penn State Smeal MBA. So MBAs wrote our college honor code. It was rolled out. It was then picked up by the rest of the college. And this week, we actually have an honor code signing going on for undergraduates, graduates, PhDs, faculty, staff. It's really a big deal in the college. We want our brand to be synonymous with principled leaders and those who are committed to integrity, not only while they're here in an academic setting, but that they'll continue to be dedicated professionals once they leave, no matter what company they go to. With the way businesses has had some ups and downs, especially since 2008 in the economy and things maybe not being done the way they should have been done, we think it's especially important to say that, yeah, you can leave business school with fundamentals basically anywhere you go, but this is something that's over and above just knowing how to do a balance sheet or how to do the basics of what an MBA will teach you. This is a core value that our MBAs will bring to the workplace with them.
That's a great initiative. And why do you think candidates should get their MBA in State College and Pennsylvania as opposed to other places in the U.S.?
Geography is interesting, so I'll bring it up. A lot of times people will say, well, you're in the middle of Pennsylvania. You're not in an urban area. Isn't that going to be tough for recruiters? So let me address that one head on. So no, we are not in the middle of an urban area, but being in the middle of the state puts us in a great place to be accessible to many different cities. You can be pretty much anywhere in the Midwest or on the East Coast by lunchtime, whether it's by air, car travel, rail, however you go. We're in a really centralized location. So no, you can't drive 20 minutes like you could potentially in a big city, but we're really accessible. In addition, the sheer volume of alumni that Penn State has, we're the largest dues-paying alumni association in the world, I believe, at last count. You've got Penn Staters everywhere, and those recruiters want to come back here and interact here at the University Park campus. So it's, again, a college town, so you've got some elements of the urban, yet if you want to be out on a trail, hiking, have a little quiet respite in a local forest, you can do that within 15 minutes. And again, as far as being accessible to places like Chicago, Baltimore, DC, New York, again, anywhere on that East Coast, our airport is a 10-minute drive from the business building, and we can make sure we can get you where you need to be.
And what has your personal experience been being a Penn State alumni? I mean, we hear a lot about the size of the network, but what is it like to be a member? And is it a really engaged alumni community?
Extremely engaged. I'll give you a little my personal background here, because this is something I can offer from a firsthand perspective. I'm a second-generation Penn State alum. I did my undergraduate study here as well as my graduate study while not at the Smeal MBA program here at Penn State. So I've seen many different perspectives of Penn State, including now being an employee. And I can tell you that it really is a robust alumni network. One example I'll give you is a couple of years ago, we got a random email from a small organization out in Los Angeles, California. And it was sent to me by a gentleman who also happened to be a Penn State alum. Out of all the thousands of alums, I actually recognized his name. And I wrote back, he had been involved with our marching band here when I was a student, and I wrote back, and there was an instant connection. Penn Staters really want to help other Penn Staters. And from that, we actually formed a business partnership to help recruit people from his organization into our program. We often hear that students go on our global immersion trips. I know for a fact it's happened in both Shanghai and Johannesburg, South Africa, that if you yell out, "We are," somebody will answer Penn State.
No way, really?
We say that if you want to remain anonymous when you travel, don't wear your Penn State gear, because somebody will seek you out or find you. If they don't have the immediate connection to Penn State, they undoubtedly will know somebody that does. So it is as robust as people make it out to be.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important quality for MBA applicants to look out for. Whatever school they're targeting, how engaged are their alumni? If we could now talk about your admissions process, could you let us know what fit qualities you're looking for from applicants?
So I think we started to touch on a few of them. That collaborative and team spirit is really important. And again, not just so much to collaborate so you can be successful, but to collaborate so your whole team can be successful. Because if everyone's successful, it benefits the brand, it benefits you. Everyone walks away with a better experience. We do so much work in 4 to 5 person teams in both our first and second year. Having that collaborative spirit is really important. I think you also have to have the ability to both lead and follow. Again, speaks to the team component there. We look for a demonstrated commitment to ethics and integrity, and someone who shares the value that we talk about in our honor code. It's really not something we pay lip service to. We want you to believe that and actually fit in with our values.
And how can applicants demonstrate those traits in their essays and so forth without saying, I'm a principled leader?
So some of it will come through in the interview. We talk about a lot of questions and some of the way you tell your experiences and talk about some of your professional interactions that will naturally come out. But even before that, looking at things, for example, on the resume, what might someone have been involved in outside of their work, or what additional initiatives might they have taken on at work? What kind of companies do they choose to work for? Are they companies that are known for their commitment to excellence and ethics? So there's a lot of different things we can look for. Some of our questions in our video application essay will ask directly about ethics and integrity, and tell me about a time you fill in the blank. So while there's not a specific essay that says, why are you a principled leader? There are a lot of different things we look for in the way people answer questions and in what their resume says about them.
Could you talk a little bit more about your video application question? I found that quite unique. How many questions do you ask during that part of the process?
Each applicant is required to do this video portion. It is new this year, and its purpose is twofold. It's helping us get to know people a little bit better, a little bit earlier in the process, putting a face with a name versus just the paper application. It's also helping us gauge things like communication skills right up front. So everybody, when they get in to shoot their video, will be asked to answer 3 randomly generated questions, which our team has put together into a pool of questions. So they are all relevant to things we are looking for in an applicant to the program.
I'm sure some applicants are really looking forward to that and others are really dreading it.
I'm sure. And we're seeing more schools turn to video earlier in the process. Again, being a successful MBA graduate, you need to have good communication skills. We want to be able to start gauging things like fit very early on. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more when we talk about the process, but it is just one piece of the application. We're going to look at everything together. We know that this is, 1, a new experience for a lot of people, 2, that they're going to be really nervous, and 3, it may not be perfect, but we're also looking for communication issues that we can coach. If someone stumbles a little bit, we can coach them through that piece of it, versus if someone totally falls apart the second the camera's on. So again, not looking for perfection there, but really looking to get a good feel for who someone is as an applicant and get to know them just a little bit better than seeing the paper file.
Absolutely. And could you, walk us through the life of an application in your office?
So once everything is completed, all of our application pieces, including that video interview, we have the resume, we have the essays, the recommendations, we do an initial read. And really what we're looking for in that initial read are preliminary indicators of 3 things. Is someone going to be academically successful? Because ultimately, you're here to get a degree. You've got to be able to get through the academic requirements of the program. 2, are your career goals and where do you want to end up ultimately after the MBA? Are they in line with what our strengths are academically and the type of employers that come here? As a terminal degree for most people, you're coming here to get a better job. So we want to make sure that we're a good fit in both directions. Do you know what your goals are? Or if you're still refining them, that's fine, but can we help you with that and make sure you wind up on the other side of the degree with the job you want? And 3, are you going to be a good fit for us? Small program. If you're looking to hide out in the classroom and not answer questions, you're not going to be a good fit here because the professors are going to know you. Your classmates are going to know you. So again, looking for those 3 things: academic soundness, employability, and can we help you on the career front, and are you a good fit for our community? And if we're starting to get indicators, even if they're not perfectly clear, we're likely going to move you ahead to an interview. We want to find from that first read, do we want to know more? Are the basic factors there in line that we want to have a conversation now with you and invite you to an interview? Assuming that we do, you are then invited to interview with someone from our admissions committee, which we prefer to do interviews in person, but we also know that we have a lot of applicants from all over the globe, and it's not always feasible to do interviews in person. So Skype is really something we rely heavily on. Again, putting emphasis on that face-to-face personal connection. After the interview, the file then goes back with all of the interview notes to the committee, and it's reviewed to, again, determine if this person is going to be the right fit for our community and be successful. And from there, we make our admissions decision. On occasion, if someone has a little bit more of a non-traditional career path, or we still have some outstanding questions about a specific piece of the interview, they may do a brief second interview with someone else, either from our team. On occasion, we would bring in an alum, especially if it's an employment-related question we want more information on. We might have an alum have a conversation with a person about some of their goals. And occasionally, we'll have a current student do a second interview if there's just a little bit more information we feel like we need. But for the most part, most applicants go through one interview with someone from the admissions committee.
And your admissions committee is comprised of your team and students? Who's on that committee?
Students are not on the committee. It is admissions professionals here on our administrative team.
And would you have any last tips for applicants on what they can do to improve their chances of getting into a school like Smeal?
I would say, and this is a tip that goes beyond getting in, but for making sure you're looking at the right program, do your research early and do it thoroughly. Make sure you're applying to the programs that are going to be a good fit. By naturally excluding, I'm not saying don't apply to any reach schools, but by naturally excluding some of the ones that you self-select out of, you've already narrowed your pool down to places that you think are a good fit. I would say you would also want to make sure you are putting forth your best application. And while it seems like it may not need to be said, things like proofreading are really important. Have not only your spell check and your grammar check on, but have a human being read through your application, not only for errors or typos or things like that, but do your essays, do they sound like you? Are you putting forth a picture of the candidate that you want to put forward? We often have applicants say, I may not have my application just quite ready for the December deadline. Should I wait till February or just get it in there? And what I'll typically tell them is earlier is better, but not at the expense of quality. If you are going to, retake a GMAT, or you need more time to perfect your essays or make sure it's really the best representation of your candidacy, I would rather see someone wait and put forth a stellar app than rush it through just to get under a deadline.
What applicants wow you in the interview process?
I would say those who can really demonstrate good communication skills, who are professional but can still convey who they are. A lot of times you'll see people with significant work experience. Certainly they look great on paper. They have the technical speak, but they just can't communicate well, or they just don't connect well interpersonally. In an MBA program, again, communication skills are so important that we make every first year take a year-long communications class. But being able to make a connection with the interview, communicate your ideas clearly, and of course, having prepared for the interview, those are all things that come together on interview day. And when they come together well, they can make an amazing impression when you've done the work in advance.
How important is it for applicants to have a very concrete idea of what they want to do after their MBA? How specific do they need to be with their plans in terms of why an MBA and what they want to do after?
If they can be genuinely specific, meaning they really know that's the path they want to take and they can convey that and they've done their research, that's great. But we don't want people to say things that aren't necessarily true for the sake of being specific. We don't expect you to necessarily know what company is going to be on your business card and what your title and office number are going to be post-MBA. But you should have a pretty good idea of why you're pursuing the MBA. You should have it narrowed down to at least a short list of functions, industries, companies, and types of jobs you would like to pursue and why. But again, it doesn't have to be, the be-all, end-all. We don't typically pull out admissions essays and say, nope, you said you were going to do this, and now we're holding you to it or you're out of the program. It doesn't happen like that. We know that year one in a full-time program is also going to have some element of exploration to it. And we know people, for example, let's say we've got someone who applies and says, oh, I'm really, really interested in marketing. And then they get into supply chain classes and say, wow, I really didn't know a lot about this. I'm really interested in that too. So they could have goals that change as they're exposed to other people, other ideas, other academic content, and even other companies that come to campus. But again, you should at least have it narrowed down to the short list and can say with confidence that no matter what your goals are going to solidify after that 2 years, that the MBA is going to be the right degree for you.
One more question on admissions is for those applicants out there who they've taken the GMAT a few times and they aren't able to get the score they really want, and say they have a lower quant score. Would you have any tips for those applicants who have already retaken the exam on how they can show their quantitative ability to get through the program, even though they have low GMAT scores?
GMAT will still play a factor, so there's really no getting around that. But in some cases, we certainly look at the undergraduate record. And if that is also weak, we'll often say, okay, prove it to us. Go take a class at a local university, community college, a reputable online program. Show us what you can do as far as quantitative work at the graduate level. Depending on what the rest of the application looks like, that may not be the deciding factor, but it is one way some applicants have been able to prove that they do indeed have the type of quantitative skills that we're looking for, even though the GMAT might not show that.
In terms of scholarships, could you let us know what percentage of your class gets scholarships and what your average scholarship amounts are?
Generally, upwards of 80% of our class get some kind of merit-based aid. That includes anything from a graduate assistantship, which is full tuition waiver, and you work for the college 10 to 20 hours per week. You get a stipend with that and subsidized health insurance, to scholarships, which can be anywhere between literally $2,500 and $25,000. Everyone who applies by the February 1st deadline is automatically considered for those merit-based awards. Normally, we award about 35 graduate assistantships and maybe between 12 and 15 scholarships. It can vary a little bit year to year based on what is available. But typically, our aid packages are very generous.
And those graduate assistantships need to be applied for?
They don't. Your application for admission is also your application for merit-based aid. So anything merit-based, such as the graduate assistantship or the scholarships, are awarded through the admissions process. And it is purely on what we see in the application process. So the merit of your work experience, your leadership, your academic background, which includes your GPA, your test scores, anything we can see in the interaction with you throughout the process. Anything need-based is a completely separate animal. We don't ask for any of that in our admissions process. Typically, need-based awards would be loans, which require repayment. But the merit-based awards, again, everyone is eligible, no matter what country you're from. If you're from the U.S., considered an international applicant. And your application for admission is your application for automatic merit-based aid consideration as long as you apply by February 1st.
Do you have any other tips for our listeners on how they can, improve their chances of winning a scholarship, or if you have any other tips for financing their MBAs?
One thing I will say, I'll go to test scores. And again, this is one factor, but it can usually be the easiest factor to change in the shortest amount of time. If you take the GMAT or GRE, we also accept GRE at our program, take it to get the best score you can. Not because that's the score that will get you in, although hopefully it does, but it's also part of what some schools look at, including ours, for merit-based aid awards. So look to get that highest score because that is one factor we may go to. Again, not the only factor, but usually one you can change in the shortest amount of time. We know you can't go back and change your undergraduate transcript. You can't immediately affect how much work experience you have. But in a month, you could potentially raise your GMAT score 50 to 100 points and potentially get yourself in fighting range. But if the rest of your application is weak to begin with, that's going to cause other problems. But that's just one tip out there for those that might have some room for improvement on a standardized test.
If we could now talk about careers, my favorite part of the podcast. I have a really broad question to start this, and that's just what makes Smeal unique and special from a career management perspective?
Extremely early engagement with our career services team and one-on-one attention. So our career services team is made up of career services and employer relations, and overall that's 5 people. 2 of those people are full-time just career coaches. They begin engaging one-on-one with all of our incoming students over the summer prior to when they come for orientation. And they will engage with you as much or as little as you want. We had some students do multiple revisions of their resumes working with their coach before July of this year. So our team is ready, willing, and able. From the second you make your commitment to us, we've had people as early as the spring that we've admitted they've enrolled in March or April, and they've really gotten a jump on using our coaches. It doesn't happen a lot, but as far as our commitment and attention to our students, our team is absolutely fantastic. And I think that early engagement can really put some people well ahead of the curve. We had students come in this year and had internship offers before they actually started orientation.
Wow.
Certainly they did a lot of work on their own accord, and all credit goes there to the student, but some of those folks were able to, again, use our resources very early before they even set foot on campus and really get ahead of some of the curve.
You've been with Smeal now for about, 6-7 years now? What are the common traits you see in your MBAs that are able to land their targeted jobs or jobs they're really happy with after they graduate?
Proactivity, I would say, would be the number one thing. And that applies to those who know what they want to do, those who don't know what they want to do, but people who take ownership of their own process, make it a point to plan, make it a point to use the resources, take advantage of opportunities, carve out time to dedicate to the job search. I can't narrow it down to someone who has X amount of work experience or someone who has this background or this undergraduate degree, but those who are proactive, who prioritize their career search, and who really take advantage of opportunities are the ones that consistently do well when it comes to landing that job they want.
And what are some of these opportunities? Is it reaching out to alums? Is it recruiting on campus? What are these opportunities?
So using our career services coaches, again, engaging early. They're there whenever you want to make an appointment. So that's one thing. Attending information sessions when companies come to campus. A lot of times we'll find that people say, oh, well, I don't really know that company. Go anyway, learn about them. They open a door that you didn't know was there to be open. So that's really helpful. Being prepared for career fairs and making one-on-one connections when people are here in the building, leveraging our alumni network, recognizing when you need help and asking for it is absolutely huge. For example, if you don't know how to use our alumni network or our alumni directory, or you don't know who might be the best person to contact, come in. We'll tell you all of those things. But unless you kind of say, hey, I need some help here and I need some direction, we can't provide you that help.
And could you tell us some of the top companies that consistently recruit from Smeal?
We see Deloitte coming back year after year. We see Dell. Facebook has recently started recruiting. We've got Apple. We actually had a big alumni lunch out there just last week. One of our associate directors was on the road and met with our alumni at Apple. There is a full list on our website that tells you all of the companies that have come in. Ernst & Young is another one that comes to mind. We place typically in the big ones are supply chain, corporate finance, B2B marketing, and consulting. So those are the types of companies you're going to see over and over again. And that's just a list of a couple off the top of my head, but there are many more outstanding companies from your Fortune 500s down to your SMEs who come back to Smeal and that we have great relationships with.
Great. I'll be sure to link to that page that shows all your corporate recruiters. And what is the best way for our listeners to reach out to students?
There's two ways. If you want to get an overall feel for what's going on in our community, I would strongly encourage everyone to become active on our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. We have a pretty comprehensive social media presence. But if there are more specific connections someone would like to have made, they can email us at smealmba@psu.edu and request the kind of connection they're looking for. And we will either reach out to a current student or an alum, whether it's someone from the country they're from, someone working in the field they're interested in, whatever type of connection they want to make. They just need to let us know what they're looking for, and we'll make sure that happens.
Anything applicants should avoid doing when reaching out to the admissions office to be put in touch with Smeal alumni and so forth?
I think just asking politely and professionally, and also having a little bit of patience with our response. We try to acknowledge and respond to emails within 24 to 48 hours, but when reaching out to alumni especially, many of them are located globally, have a lot of hectic travel schedules. So we just ask that you remain patient. We will do our best to make the connection that you need.
Great. And to close, is there anything else about the Smeal MBA that you just wish more candidates knew about?
It's a phenomenal value. ROI is about 3.5 years. We're consistently ranked pretty competitively in Forbes. And the experience and the lifelong connections that you get through the Smeal and Penn State alumni networks are simply unparalleled.
Stacey, thank you so much for sharing your insights into the program. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners will too. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your #1 school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.